mangroves in Estero Bay and in Estero Bay Preserve State Park, they serve a couple different there's a couple different reasons the mangroves are important. For one, they help keep the soil intact. Without the mangroves, you would find lots of erosion, and essentially the land would just be falling into the sea. So the mangroves do provide erosion protection with their prop roots. So if you could imagine a bunch of fingers down in the dirt, holding the dirt in place, that's what they're doing. Now, while their roots are in the dirt there, it provides a habitat for juvenile species. That's where your term estuary comes from. An estuary is a brackish water system that provides a nursery ground for many types of marine life. So those are the two, the nursery aspect and the erosion aspect are the two main ones. Now with that, the mangroves will provide a windbreak, a wind barrier, for us, but as well as other animals. A lot of shorebirds and wading birds will nest in the mangroves. They won't nest in pine trees because they move around, but they'll nest in the stronghold of mangroves because they know they're protected there. The number one point is the mangrove system that we have here at this park. Koreshan has it, Mound Key has it, Estero Bay Preserve has it. You got red mangroves, white mangroves, black mangroves, even buttonwood. They all play a role. It's the design of the mangrove that prevents the storm surge from coming on land. It also acts as a good windbreak. Even on a day like today, it's pretty windy, but where we're at right here, we can see that it's pretty mellow. You can see the water is pretty much glass compared to what we saw earlier. It's a small craft advisory today, but due to the mangroves where we're at sheltered right now, you can just see what the impact is. If we didn't have the mangroves, storm surge would probably double. South Florida, that's the design. I just like to point out some of the taller pine trees, for example. They're going to have a very long, strong taproot, and when these storms come through, they're able to hold on. They don't have a very dense canopy, so they don't hold a lot of wind, and the wind can just blow right through them. So the pine trees here in South Florida essentially have evolved to withstand hurricanes and prescribed fire. What we saw during Irma, during high wind periods, is these pine trees would bend not quite 90 degrees, but they would bend over, and even after the storm, you can tell which way the winds came from. But they would come back, they would stand back up, and they'd right themselves. Many of these trees that you see right now that are standing, they've been through many storms, and the fact that they're close to the mangroves here, that does help. But anywhere in Southwest Florida or South Florida, you will see pine trees that have withstood all the storms. The surrounding area, we were hit with pretty high water, and just to blanket everything, the mangroves did their job here. What we found was not very much mortality in the mangroves. We noticed that some of our larger mature mangroves, some of the tops broke off. And what that allowed is for sunlight to come in and a bunch of young mangroves to come up. So we noticed a lot of areas with juveniles starting to emerge where the more mature trees had broke off. We noticed that the mangroves as a filter really did their job. Lots of debris was caught in these mangroves. So that prevented the debris from either clogging waterways or getting out to sea. In turn, we had to do a lot of cleanup. However, it was easy to find everything because it was all in the mangroves. We didn't lose any major land masses because of these mangroves in place. And the mangroves are protected. A lot of the state parks protect, county parks. The mangroves are pretty well protected. So we didn't really have, the areas with the mangroves had the least amount of damage and had the least amount of impact from the storm.